You wake up at 6:14 a.m. Sunlight is just beginning to filter through the curtains. No alarm clock blaring. No frantic rush to get ready. You simply open your eyes, feel the quiet of the morning, and breathe. You walk to the kitchen, brew your coffee exactly the way you like it, strong, black, with a hint of cinnamon. Then you sit by the window, watching the world slowly wake up while you remain perfectly still. Your phone buzzes once on the table. You pick it up and see the notification, $41 paid to you while you were sleeping. Not from your job. Not from overtime. Not from a side hustle or selling something on the side. This money came from owning. From assets you put to work years ago that continue to generate income whether you're awake, asleep, or halfway across the world. You take a slow sip of coffee and smile. Because the version of you from 5 years ago, the 26-year-old who set 3 different alarms, who dreaded Mondays like a prison sentence, who believed this kind of peaceful morning was only for the lucky or the already rich, would never have imagined this life was possible. This is not a story about getting rich overnight. You didn't win the lottery. You didn't ride some meme stock to the moon. You didn't get famous or go viral. You simply hit a number, a specific, quiet number that now covers your rent, groceries, gas, utilities, insurance, and the basic shape of a dignified life. The kind of life you used to fund by trading away your hours, your energy, and your peace of mind. And it all started with just $10,000. The humble beginning, $10,000 at age 26. For 2 long years you had been saving aggressively. You said no to the shiny new iPhone everyone was flashing. You kept driving the same reliable old car with its faded paint and familiar creaks. You cooked meals at home on Friday nights while your friends posted stories from expensive bars and restaurants. It wasn't glamorous. Most people who suddenly find $10,000 sitting in their account would immediately think of a vacation, a new watch, furniture, or some other treat. You chose differently. You opened your brokerage app with slightly nervous hands and bought a simple, boring dividend-focused ETF. The kind with a ticker symbol your friends had never heard of, something that sounded more like background noise than excitement. It wasn't flashy. No promises of 100% returns. Just a steady, respectable 4% yield. That $10,000 began paying you $400 a year. $400. It doesn't sound like much when you say it out loud. But it covered your Netflix subscription, Spotify, phone bill, and a few other small monthly expenses for an entire year. For the first time in your life, you had money coming in that wasn't directly tied to hours spent at a desk, in traffic, or pretending to care in meetings that could have been emails. Your coworker noticed the ETF on your screen during lunch one day and laughed out loud. $400 a year, bro? That's literally one decent dinner. Why bother? You said nothing. You simply closed your laptop and went back to work. That same coworker spent his next bonus on a flashy watch he would trade in or regret within a year. You did something radically different. When your first dividend payment hit your account, you didn't transfer it to checking. You didn't spend it on anything. You clicked the button that said, Reinvest. The number of shares in your account increased by a tiny, almost invisible fraction. Nobody saw that moment. Nobody applauded. But you smiled at your phone for the first time in months. That $400 was the first dollar in your adult life that had not been traded for your time. You slept through the night. The money arrived anyway. Something fundamental had shifted. Building momentum, $50,000 at age 29. 3 years passed. Through consistent contributions from your paycheck and the magic of reinvested dividends, your portfolio grew to $50,000 in that same boring ETF. It now paid you $2,000 a year. $2,000. Enough to cover your entire electric bill for 12 months. Your internet. A nice long weekend getaway with money left over. You sat at your kitchen table one quiet Sunday morning, did the simple math, and felt a profound realization wash over you. Every time I flip a light switch, open the fridge, or charge my phone, someone else is paying for it. My shares are working while I live my life. That same weekend your sister announced her engagement. The whole family gathered at a nice steakhouse. Your cousin ordered a bottle of wine that cost more than your monthly dividend and proudly announced he had just leased a new BMW. Everyone clapped and cheered. You ordered water with your steak. You ate quietly. On the drive home, your girlfriend gently asked if something was wrong. You had been unusually silent. You simply held her hand at the red light and told her you were just thinking. You didn't mention the $900 monthly lease payment your cousin had committed to, or the $11,000 a year that would disappear from his life. You didn't brag about your $50,000 quietly generating $2,000 every single year. For the first time, you felt ahead. Not richer in a flashy way. Just quietly, undeniably ahead. Learning to spot the traps, $100,000 at age 32. You reached six figures, $100,000. The number your father had always talked about as the point where everything changes. It paid $4,000 a year, enough to cover a full year of groceries for one person. Bread, eggs, chicken, coffee, everything. You walked through Whole Foods on Saturdays with this thought quietly humming in your head. Every item you placed in your cart was being paid for by your shares. You laughed softly to yourself in the produce aisle while a woman next to you carefully smelled a melon. She had no idea. Then one night your college friend Marcus texted excitedly. "Bro, I found something amazing, a stock yielding 12%. On $100,000 that's $12,000 a year. You'd triple your dividend income." The yield looked impressive on paper. But when you opened the chart, the truth was obvious. The stock had already dropped 40% over 2 years. This was a classic yield trap. The high dividend was only possible because the company's share price had collapsed. The payout was coming from a bleeding balance sheet, not sustainable profits. You closed the laptop and politely texted Marcus to be careful. He replied with a laughing emoji and invested $10,000 that same night. 6 months later, the dividend was slashed in half. The stock dropped another 30%. Marcus stopped mentioning it entirely. You kept your boring 4% ETF. The patient, reliable path kept delivering. Key lesson at six figures: if the yield looks too good to be true, it's almost always a warning sign. Chasing 12% often leads to lost principal. The steady 4% compounds quietly and outlasts almost every shiny alternative. The math becomes tangible. $250,000 at age 35. $250,000. It now paid $10,000 a year. Your car payment, if you had one, insurance, gas, all covered for the entire year. Every mile you drove in 2026 was funded by money you didn't have to earn. You realized this while sitting in traffic one Tuesday in March. The man in the lane next to you was screaming at his phone, veins bulging in his neck. He was driving a brand new Tesla. His face told a different story: stress, pressure, regret. You drove a paid-off 2019 Toyota. The Bluetooth still worked perfectly. The seats were comfortable. Your car owed you nothing. His would demand $800 a month for years to come. Your mother's words from when you were 16 suddenly clicked. "The richest people I know drive the cheapest cars." That night you parked in your driveway and sat in the car for several minutes before going inside. You weren't in a hurry anymore. You hadn't been for a long time. Crossing the freedom threshold, $500,000 at age 38. $500,000. It generated $20,000 a year. This is where the famous 4% rule becomes personal. At this level, you could theoretically walk away from your job tomorrow and cover basic living expenses without touching the principal. You wouldn't be living luxuriously, but you wouldn't starve. You would be optional. Your boss burst into your office one Friday at 4:47 p.m., sweating and stressed, begging you to stay late for an urgent project. In the past you would have said yes without hesitation. This time you paused for 3 full seconds. You felt something powerful, the feeling of being optional. You said yes anyway, but the yes came from choice, not fear or obligation. Later that night, sitting in your car in the empty parking lot, you thought about the 26-year-old who first clicked, reinvest, while being mocked for earning $400 a year. That coworker was still at the same job, still trapped in the cycle of leased cars, second mortgages, and financial stress. $500,000 doesn't make you free by itself, but it gives you the most expensive word in the English language: no. The power of silence. $1 million at age 41. $1 million. It paid $40,000 a year, essentially replacing a full entry-level to mid-level American salary forever. You sat at your kitchen table on a Tuesday night and did something you had never done before: opened a tax calculator. You entered $40,000 in qualified dividends for a single filer in 2026. The result came back: zero taxes. Your working friends lose roughly a third of their paycheck to taxes before it even reaches their account. This $40,000 was yours, clean. $1 million didn't buy a yacht or a mansion. It bought something far more valuable: silence. The deep silence of knowing you no longer needed permission from anyone, not your boss, not the government, not your past self who once doubted this was possible. No. Body at work knew. The colleague next to you earning the same salary would likely retire with hundreds of thousands less. You walked to lunch alone, ate a simple sandwich from home on a sunny bench, and felt a peace that most people chase their entire lives but never find. The day everything changed: $1.5 million at age 44. $1.5 million. It now paid $60,000 a year, matching what the average American retiree actually spends, without selling a single share. The principal continued growing. The dividends kept flowing. That morning over coffee you read a headline from Northwestern Mutual's 2026 planning study: Americans now believe they need $1.46 million to retire comfortably. You already had more. You looked out the window at people rushing to jobs, stuck in traffic, late for meetings. You remembered the kid at 26 who nervously bought that first ETF while everyone else was spending. You opened your laptop, wrote one simple email to your boss: "I'm done. Thank you for everything." You hit send. No dramatic anxiety. No fear. Just the same calm certainty you felt when that first $41 notification arrived 15+ years earlier. Why this works, and how you can start today. This journey wasn't about luck, genius stock picking, or perfect timing. It was about one decision, repeated consistently for nearly 2 decades: buy quality dividend assets. Reinvest every dividend. Add new money regularly. Stay patient when others chase excitement. The power comes from compounding, the eighth wonder of the world. Small amounts, given enough time and consistency, become life-changing. Common objections I hear: I don't have $10,000 to start. Start with whatever you have: $500, $1,000, even $100 a month. The habit matters more than the starting amount. The market is too volatile. Yes, it dips. But quality dividend ETFs recover and keep paying. Volatility is the price of admission to real wealth. I want faster results. Chasing high yields almost always ends in disappointment. Slow and steady wins because it survives. Practical steps you can take this week. 1. Open a brokerage account. Many have no minimums. 2. Research solid, low-cost dividend ETFs with proven track records. 3. Set up automatic contributions from your paycheck. 4. Turn on dividend reinvestment. 5. Ignore the noise. Delete investing apps from your phone if you check them too often. 6. Live below your means, not forever, but long enough for the math to work.